Another tight game in LA does not go the Giants' way. They lose by a final score of 5-4 for the second consecutive night. What started out as a promising road trip, starting 2-1 to start the season, turns into a 2-5 trip. Is it time to panic? No.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years now. This is my 6th season, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Also giving us 5 stars, smashing that thumbs up button, whatever you can do. Thank you so much. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. And coming up on today's show, we are going to discuss deja vu all over again. The Giants losing 5-4 in Los Angeles. This time, like I said yesterday, I do apologize for the YouTube audience out there. I never was able to get the YouTube episode up due to being on the road and just having exceptionally slow internet, and so I could have got it up, but it would have been after last night's game, so that didn't feel like right because another game had happened. So anyway, this one we're back to normal now. But anyway, what I said yesterday was that the second game felt like the game that they should have won because they had Logan Webb going. And he was uncharacteristically not sharp, and the Dodgers went with a bullpen game essentially, whereas in the finale you've got a rookie in Kyle Harrison going up against Tyler Glasnow, who was the opening day starter for the Dodgers and is just really nasty, and we saw that last night. So it does end up going that way with the Giants. I mean, 2 5-4 losses. That's the thing, is like there were 3 games in this road trip that could have been wins. Like the opening day game, they had a lead going into the bottom of the 7th. The middle game of this Dodgers series, the Giants had, Logan Webb going, like I said, and he was uncharacteristically bad. And they also had a lot of scoring chances, and many of them they did not come through on. And in this finale, I mean, it's a 1-run game, and it can kind of go either way. But at the end of the day, a loss is a loss is a loss, and they all count the same. And so for the Giants, I do just want to point out that, so yes, the record is 2-5. It doesn't look good when it's 2-5, but if you're 3 games under 500 at like 27-30, like, I mean, first of all, you don't want to be under 500 that deep into the season, but it's like it feels less of a big deal, like you're right around the 500 mark at that point, whereas this is like, oh my goodness, because the pace is, I mean, it's a 286 winning percentage, which if we do 0.286 times 162, if the Giants keep this up, they're going to win 46 games and they're going to lose 116. 46 and 116. So obviously that's not what's going to happen. So they're going to play better. The results are going to be better. And their run differential was only -10, which does suggest a 3-4 record as opposed to 2-5. And so that is kind of how I feel. And I would have been perfectly okay with a 3-4 record going through the Padres and the Dodgers to start the season on the road. So ultimately they don't get that third win that I thought would have been nice to get. But at the end of the day, 7 games at the beginning of the season isn't going to doom you. Like, even the Marlins, who are 0-7, like, they're not as good of a team as the Giants, I would say, but also at the same time, 7-game stretches just don't matter all that much. And so I'm just not overly concerned about it. And the Dodgers are just this powerhouse team that, you went toe to toe with, and 2 games in a row, like you kind of made them have to work for it, 5-4, and some comeback efforts in both of those games. And for the Giants, it's really been about pitching, because it's kind of funny how you can always try to predict how things will go, but here's the runs scored total for the Giants in each of the first 7 games, 7 games. They go 4 runs scored, 8 runs scored, 9 runs scored, 4 runs scored, then 3, 4, 4. And so they've only scored fewer than 4 runs one time. And if you had told me that they're going to score 4 runs or more in all but one of their games to open the season, I would definitely not have predicted 2 and 5, because here's the runs allowed: 6, 3, 6, 13, 8, 5, 5. So that's the problem. The problem is they've just been allowing too many runs, but at the same time, you do just kind of at times have to give credit to your opponent. And going into Dodger Stadium, playing this crazy, ridiculous all-star Dodgers lineup, it's crazy to me. Like, you could literally take out Betts, Shohei, and Freeman, and the Dodgers would still be a really good team and probably a playoff team. But then you just have that really good playoff team and add literally Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman, and it's just ridiculous. And that's kind of what the Dodgers are doing right now. They've scored 5 runs or more in all of their first. For them, they played those 2 games in South Korea. So for them, they've played 9 games and they've scored a total of 57 runs. And so, the runs scored per game for the Giants, 36 total in 7 games, which is 5.14 per game. That's going to win you a lot of games if you're scoring over 5 runs a game. However, allowing 46 runs in 7 games is going to lose you a lot of games. That's 6.6 runs per game allowed. And so, when you're allowing 6, 7, more like 7 runs a game, of course, you're going to struggle to win. And so that just kind of explains it. But as I've said over and over, there are just a ton of unsustainability indicators with the pitching. The pitching is not going to be this bad. Obviously, it's just obvious, right? Like, the ERA for the team, I want to get it more into the stats a little bit later, but they have the second worst ERA in Major League Baseball right now. They're 6.52. You want to make a bet? I'll make a bet with you of $1 trillion that ERA is going to be shaved off by at least, a lot. It'll be lower than 6.52. I can promise you that. And so, again, a lot of that is going to be the opponents. Not every team is the Padres offense or the Dodgers offense in particular. So, that's my takeaway from the opening series, is that it ultimately is a disappointment for sure. But I just think they were 1 win away from it being fine, and it's still fine. It's just not ideal. But it would have been perfectly acceptable to be 3 and 4. 2 and 5 is like disappointing. 3 and 4 would have been like, whatever. Let's move on, get the season rolling. Battled some tough teams on the road. So coming up in just a minute, though, we will zoom out and zoom in at the stats that mattered from the opening week. The hitting as a whole, as well as some individual players. The pitching as a whole, including individual players, the stats that stood out, and then some updates from the minor leagues. Is that where the help could lie for the Giants moving forward? So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, which I have personally bought from eBay Motors, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. For me, my favorite features are the panoramic views you get from the seats. I was just traveling with, on the road watching the Giants play some baseball, and I don't know about you, but if you're wherever you're looking, like if you haven't been to that stadium before, or even if you have and it's been a while, being able to see that panoramic view from your seat is a game changer. And also, you worry about price, right? And you get the lowest price guarantee with Game Time, which means if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. For a limited time, all users get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we go. We're going to discuss the stats that mattered for the Giants in this opening road trip. This is not the NBA. It's certainly not the NFL. The 7 games doesn't mean as much as it means in other sports. And any team can go 2-5. If you look around the league and just look at some of the records, it's kind of bonkers. I mean, the Mets haven't even won a game, and they're a solid enough team. Tigers are not necessarily the greatest team, and they haven't lost. Marlins are 0-7. So just crazy. Baseball's crazy. And, last year the Rays started the year with 12 or 13 wins in a row, and this year they're not doing that. And last year they didn't even come particularly close to winning the division, despite winning their first 12 or 13 games in a row. So anyway, that's baseball for you. Remember, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers on Monday, breaking down the home opener and the series against, what am I talking about? It's not Friday today. Tomorrow, I'm hoping to talk with Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres, talk a little smack about his prediction that the Padres would sweep the Giants in that opening series. I predicted a split. Guess what happened? They split. I also, the other day, predicted a 450-foot Jorge Soler home run. Guess what? He hit one 452 feet last night. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I also just want to continue to remind you, in case you forgot, that we're doing postcasts, okay? So not only do we cover your team every day here, but we're now giving you instant episodes after every single game. Check out the Locked On Giants postcast hosted by Eric Engel for instant reaction on the Locked On Giants podcast feed after every Giants game, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. So join the conversation right after the game live on Locked On Sports Bay Area on YouTube. Get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Giants postcast. So yes, all right, the stats that mattered from the first trip of the season for the Giants. I mean, the one that stands out to me, all those runs allowed, and I've said this a bunch of times already, but there were some unearned runs in there too. But even their ERA, earned run average, is second worst in baseball, sandwiched between the lowly Rockies and the lowly Nationals. So that's not where you want to be, but it also doesn't mean they're going to stay there at all. Last year, it was about the hitting, and the hitting ended up getting much better, but then really falling off. But, you know, the Giants are not going to have an ERA of 6.52 for the season, but that's what stands out. And you look at, you know, other teams, you've got teams that are significantly worse just having much better pitching results, pitching staffs that are significantly worse just having much better results. Like the Red Sox have really struggled from a pitching perspective in recent years, and they're number one in the league. They have an ERA of 1.54 to start the season. So, and for the Giants, I mean, yeah, I sound a little bit like a broken record here, but, you know, you've got Logan Webb has an ERA of 6.52. Eric Miller, 12.27. Dalton Jeffries, 22.5. Luke Jackson and Camilo Doval at 27 each. You know, so stuff like that is going to normalize, obviously. And so, to me, I do have to just repeat this. The Giants are bottom, I think, four in three of the main things I look at in terms of pitching sustainability. And I don't call it luck, but a lot of people refer to these as like luck metrics, but I will not call them that. I'm just calling it sustainability. It just means if you're doing really, really poorly in these categories, it just means you will improve, because no team does that poorly, no matter how bad you are. And so for the Giants, home run to fly ball ratio, they're fourth worst. They've allowed home runs on 17% of their fly balls, 16.9. And Giants are usually a team that prevents home runs really well, and they play at Oracle Park, and so expect fewer fly balls to be home runs moving forward. Also, left on base percentage is a huge one. For example, entering today, the Tigers had stranded 96.2% of the base runners that they had allowed. That's just ridiculous, and it won't last. And so if I was a Tigers host, I would be saying it in reverse. I'd be saying the pitching's been so great, but just so you know, they're not going to strand 96% of the base runners they allow. Every team is going to converge around the league average of 72% when all is said and done. That is just what happens every year. And I mean, there's going to be some variation, but 72% is always around the average, and teams don't deviate all that much from average in this category. And so it's a huge luck/sustainability indicator. And for the Giants, this one really stands out. They're fourth worst, stranding only 60.6% of base runners. And so they should be stranding about 72% of their base runners, but they're only stranding 60.6. And so that obviously leads to that equals more runs than you would expect based on the base runners they've allowed. Like basically they'll allow base runners, but less of them will score. I promise you. Like versus what we've seen in the first 7 games. And then batting average on balls in play, famously, you know, referred to as a luck statistic. I don't really view it that way necessarily. Again, the Tigers number 198. If I was a Tigers host, I would say this has been awesome, but look, they're not going to hold opponents to a under 200 batting average on balls in play all season. It's going to be up around 300 at the end of the year. And I haven't even looked at the Giants number yet, but league average is like 297, and that's like where you should expect pretty much every team to end up. And the Giants are at let's see, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth worst at 341. So this does not count home runs. A home run is not technically a ball in play in this case. But anyway, it's about 40 points higher than we should expect moving forward. So when a ball is hit, but it's not a homer and it's in play, about 4 percentage points less of the time should we expect those balls to be hits, is essentially what that means. And so all of those things in combination lead to something like we've seen with the runs being a little bit out of control, and the fact that the Giants have allowed so many of them, and that's kind of what led to this 2-5 trip, despite, like I said, scoring 4 or more runs in all but one of their games. So on the offensive side, what I see, like the reason I haven't touched on it too much is because that stuff doesn't look too abnormal. Like if we look at individual players, yes, you have on both ends of the spectrum, like guys overperforming, underperforming, but that's normal in just any 7-game chunk of baseball. That's what you're going to see no matter what. Like that's just how it is. Over the course of a full season, everybody stabilizes, but pretty quickly that like a team can stabilize. And so the pitching for the Giants has not. It's still weird and wonky. And for certain teams like the Marlins, like are hitting 197 with a 274 on base and 285 slugging. That's not going to last. The Dodgers, I mean, I don't want to say it's not going to last, or the Astros, I mean, they're killing the ball, but at just these ridiculous levels. Whereas the Giants, they've been perfectly fine offensively overall. 246 batting average, that's probably right around league average. So before you say 240 something is horrible, just know that we're in 2023, or no, 2024, and that is 246. I'm going to guess that is league average. 244 is league average. So 246, guess what? Above average for the Giants in batting average. So we've got to adjust. We're not in 1970 anymore. 300 is not the barometer for what a good batting average is. League average is 244. And so, yeah. Anyway, Giants at 246, 321 on base, 415 slugging, 101 weighted runs created plus. So that's average. Like literally 100 is average, and they're at 101. So the offense has been fine. Like nothing crazy, but nothing horrible overall. And we could look at the individual players in there, but just mostly, if you just had pitched fine, you'd probably be like 3-3, or I guess you can't be. What am I talking about? 7 games, so 3-4 feels like more appropriate based on all this data and just watching the games. I was literally at all of these games except last night, and it just felt like one of those 3 winnable games they could have pulled out and probably should have pulled out, but they didn't. And so the only thing that really matters is that those losses count and are permanent, and that's the thing. It's like the rest of it, you can kind of write it off or whatever, but the wins and the losses, they count. And so at the end of the year, those games are in your standings permanently. And that's the only thing that really matters here. So coming up in just a minute, is there a solution to all this? Like all this, but like more so just, I want to check in on a couple guys, a couple minor leaguers who are top prospects who didn't make the opening day roster, but have had some really good starts in AAA. So we will get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. One of my favorite things about PrizePicks is that, yes, it is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California. They also offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this baseball season. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, hands down. I just did it yesterday. I did not win. I did take the over, and man, or the more on Jorge Soler with 0.5 total bases. He hit a home run, so pretty sure that's more than half a total base. But Ross Stripling, believe it or not, killed me by pitching 7 innings for the A's. There you go with weirdness in baseball, right? Ross Stripling, so horrible last year, and he's thrown 7 innings of 1-run baseball for the A's last night. That's just, there you go, baseball, weird. But anyway, PrizePicks. I didn't win last night, but it's just a ton of fun. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, here we go. We're going to discuss a couple of specific minor league players who were demoted to start the season. One player got called up but didn't really play, and the starts that they have gotten off to in AAA. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, everydayers tomorrow. I'm hoping to reel in Javier Reyes so he can answer for his sins of saying that the Padres would sweep the Giants. The Giants did get swept in one of these series, but it wasn't against the Padres. The reason I want to talk to him too is because the Giants are about to play the Padres. And so we can talk about the last series, preview the upcoming series. I really hope to get him, but I haven't heard back from him yet. Otherwise, we will probably be doing a mailbag, so look out on Twitter perhaps tonight for the prompt. Not only do we cover your team every day, but now we're giving you instant episodes after every single game. Check out the Locked On Giants postcast right here on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, as well as streaming on the Locked On Bay Area Sports Bay Area, YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction with Eric Engel to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Giants postcast. This is just an additional thing we're doing for you for instant rapid reaction to games right afterwards, live on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. So check it out. And also remember, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Giants. So, we're talking about Luis Matos and we're talking about Marco Luciano. So we saw Kyle Harrison pitched last night. Wasn't great, but at the same time, it's Dodger Stadium on the road. I mean, you're playing the Dodgers on the road. It's just tough. And so I'm going to give him kind of a pass. And his next start will be against the Nationals. And we'll see if he can go out there and dominate the Nationals, and that'll be sweet. And it'll go Snell, Webb, Harrison. I mean, that's going to start to get exciting. And so, yeah, definitely don't panic about 2-5. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. But switching over to the performance of, let's just start with Marco Luciano because he's been there the whole time. Matos missed some games in AAA because he was in the majors, even though he barely played. But it's great to see that Marco Luciano has started out the season there on a tear in 4 games, 21 plate appearances, tiny sample, but he's hitting .438, .571 on base, .563 slugging, at 197 weighted runs created plus, so about twice as good as the average player in that league. The walk rate really jumps off the page at 24%. He's just continued to make himself a player who just is really disciplined. And what I really like to see too, this is still not great, but the strikeout rate, and by the way, strikeout and walk rates are 2 of the things that do stabilize among the quickest. Takes forever for batting average and on base and slugging and stuff like that. Maybe not forever, but it takes a while for those things to stabilize. But strikeout rates, walk rates, those things are quicker, but certainly 4 games is not enough. But still, the strikeout rate is 28.6% for Marco Luciano, which is a little bit high, but it was in AAA last year, 35.9%. So if he can keep it, it's got to be under 30, in my opinion. And so far it is. And so we'll see if it continues to be. talk about unsustainability. He's got a 700 batting average on balls in play. It's going to be closer to 300. But nonetheless, tearing the cover off the ball to start the season in Sacramento. You love to see it. Nick Ahmed has done a fine job, but Giants may find themselves needing a little more offense out of the bottom of this order. It kind of looks to me like you kind of have Patrick Bailey had himself a good game, which is good to see and important. But with, a couple of like defense first players, you can, look, Marco Luciano is just an important part of the future of this team. And so to see him get off on the right foot in AAA is a really good sign. I hope he just continues to kill it down there and get his opportunity in the majors sooner rather than later. And for Luis Matos, he made his AAA debut last night, and he had 6 plate appearances, and he homered in 2 of them. That's right. So Matos, what else can I say? He's played 1 game. His batting average is 500. His on-base is 500. His slugging is 1,500. His isolated power is 1,000, which it can't be. It can't be any higher? No, it can. It can. Because if you homered in all 6 of your plate appearances, it would be higher. Look, it's 1 game. I can't be like analyzing the stats like that. But the fact is he hit 2 homers in his first game. And so with Yastrzemski and Slater so far, like not really producing. It is super early. I'm not like, I know there's like definitely a loud crowd that wants Luis Matos here yesterday and to be in the lineup every day. And I get that. But my opinion on that has always been that he's going to get his shots. He's going to get his shot. And whether it's most likely going to be an injury. But let's just give an example of Michael Conforto. People wanted Conforto gone to clear a spot for Matos, but Conforto has been far and away the Giants' best hitter to start the season. Conforto's hitting .370 with a .414 on base and .778 slugging. My goodness, Conforto's been on fire. And so, that's just kind of what I'm talking about. And it could just as easily have been Conforto struggling and Yastrzemski starting out that way. And so the fact is, Yaz and Conforto have done it in the major leagues, and Matos, as of yet, hasn't. And also there's less flexibility. You can't option Michael Conforto. Yastrzemski, I think technically he could be optioned, but it doesn't. If Matos hit left-handed, maybe there's a case to be made there, but you don't want him first of all, Slater can't be optioned. And if he was replacing Slater, then he would be in a platoon because Slater's in a platoon. And so anyway, Matos will get his chances. I think he deserves it. If he just tears the cover off the ball in AAA, it'll come sooner rather than later. And that's what we saw in the first game, and hopefully it continues. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers tomorrow, hopefully discussing this upcoming series with Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres. If not, a mailbag, so look out on Twitter for a potential prompt. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like the show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow, opening day tomorrow for the Giants at home. So thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.